People often imagine that awakening means entering a state of endless bliss, floating in some eternal cloud of peace, radiating smiles, and effortlessly attracting a perfect soulmate. Society sells this dream like a fairy tale. Awaken, and the right person will magically appear. But let's shatter that illusion right now, because the truth, my friend, is far more raw, far more unsettling, and yet far more liberating. When you truly awaken, love as the world defines it starts to crumble. The old way of falling in love, the butterflies, the clinging, the projection of fantasies, suddenly feels impossible. Why? Because awakening strips away the veil. It shows you with brutal clarity that what most people call love is not love at all. It's often a transaction between two restless egos, a subtle bargain where both say, complete me, validate me, save me from myself. But here's the paradox. Awakened souls are not incapable of love. In fact, they feel love more fiercely, more deeply, more authentically than ever before. They no longer chase shallow games. They no longer settle for masks. They no longer confuse possession with passion. And that's exactly why they struggle to find love in the ordinary world, because their love now is too pure, too intense, too truthful for a culture built on illusions. So let me ask you this. What if the very reason awakened souls struggle with relationships is not because they've lost love, but because they've finally touched the real thing? Pause. Let that sink in, because once you see through the illusion, you can never go back. Chapter 1. The Challenge of Awakening. Awakening does not erase your struggles, it intensifies them. Why? Because now you see life without filters. Before awakening, love looked like fireworks, butterflies, late-night texts, and the thrill of being wanted. But once you awaken, you begin to notice what lies underneath those illusions. You see how much of romance was about escaping loneliness, about needing someone to validate you, about trying to fix an emptiness inside. Awakening rips that mask off, and suddenly what once looked like magic feels shallow. The game is exposed. When the veil drops, you realize something profound. Most people don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with the version of themselves they see reflected in your eyes. They project their wounds, their fantasies, their unmet needs, and call it love. And for a while you played along because it felt good. But awakening makes it impossible to pretend. You start craving authenticity, not masks. You crave depth, not performance. And that makes ordinary love feel unbearable. Before awakening, you thought you were searching for the one. After awakening, you realize you were always searching for yourself. Every romance, every heartbreak, every obsession, it was pointing you back to the truth you kept avoiding, that love cannot be borrowed, begged, or stolen. It must rise from your own soul. The challenge is, most of the world hasn't reached this awareness. So while you awaken, you find yourself isolated, unable to return to old ways, yet still craving a depth that few are ready to meet. Awakening changes how you look at attachment. Before, you confused attachment with love, the need to hold, to cling, to control, to never let go. Now you see that attachment is fear disguised as affection. True love does not cling. True love allows freedom. And that freedom scares most people. They want certainty, ownership, guarantees. But an awakened soul knows the only real love is the one that allows both people to grow, even if that means letting go. This is why awakened love feels so rare. The old drama, the chase, the obsession, the roller coaster of highs and lows, once felt intoxicating. But after awakening, it feels like poison. You can't go back to that chaos because you've tasted stillness. You've glimpsed what love feels like when it flows naturally without games. But here's the paradox. While others are addicted to chaos, you now crave calm. While they chase validation, you seek truth. This difference creates distance, and many awakened souls mistake it as loneliness. In reality, it's evolution. To awaken is to realize that relationships are not about filling a hole, but about sharing wholeness. This realization changes everything. When you no longer approach love as a desperate need, but as an overflowing gift, you stop settling for less. You stop playing small. You stop lowering your frequency just to be accepted. Instead, you stand in your truth, even if it means standing alone. And though it feels difficult, this very stance attracts the kind of love that mirrors your soul, not your wounds. The challenge of awakening is not that you can't love, it's that you now love differently. You love without possession, without illusion, without desperation, and this kind of love is so rare in today's world that many people cannot handle it. But remember this, the loneliness you feel is not punishment, it is preparation. Life is carving space within you, so that when love does arrive, it will not be a bargain between egos, but a union of souls. And that is worth every struggle. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Falling in Love. Think about it deeply. What does it really mean when we say we fall in love? Most of the time, it begins with a spark, a look, a smile, a conversation. Instantly, the mind starts weaving stories. You don't just see the person. You see a reflection of your dreams, your fantasies, your longings. You declare them perfect. You label them your other half. But here's the truth. You haven't seen them yet. You've only seen the movie your imagination is playing on the screen of their face. Awakening forces you to confront this uncomfortable truth. Much of what we call love is not love at all, but projection. You fall for your own imagination, not the person standing in front of you. Alan Watts said that desire often disguises itself as love, but its real aim is possession. You don't fall in love with who they are. You fall in love with who you believe they will make you become. That's why love feels like a drug. It's the high of your own mind feeding you illusions. This illusion is why so many relationships begin with fire and end in ashes. At first, the fantasy is alive, the mystery, the uncertainty, the possibility. But once you get closer, once the masks start to slip, reality enters. You realize they are not the perfect dream you created, but a human being with flaws, wounds, and shadows. Suddenly, the magic fades. Why? Because it was never them you loved. It was the story you painted around them. And stories eventually collapse under the weight of truth. Awakening opens your eyes to how much romance is fueled not by presence, but by absence. Think about it. Longing feels strongest when the other person is away. You replay their words, you idealize their silence, you create an entire version of them in your head. That burning sensation of love intensifies with distance, uncertainty, and mystery. But this isn't love. It's hunger. It's the ache of the ego longing to be completed. The fire burns brightest, not because of connection, but because of lack. This is why awakened souls find it hard to play along with the illusion. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You notice how people chase longing, not love. They crave the intensity of missing someone, not the calm of truly being with them. They confuse emotional turbulence with passion, when in reality it's just their wounds being triggered. Awakening shatters the addiction to drama. You realize true love is quiet, steady, rooted in presence, not in absence. But quiet love is foreign to a restless world. Most people believe passion means chaos. The heart racing, the sleepless nights, the obsessive need to check your phone. But awakening shows you the shadow side of this obsession. It's not passion, it's dependence. It's your fear of emptiness screaming, "Don't leave me." True love doesn't scream, it whispers. True love doesn't demand, it gives. But to reach this stage, you must pass through the fire of seeing your own illusions. The painful realization that what you once called love was often just need wearing a mask. Alan Watts described it beautifully. When you look for love, you are missing the point. Love is not something to be found, it is something to be realized. The illusion of falling in love is exactly that, a fall. You fall into your own fantasies, your own shadows, your own hunger. Real love does not make you fall, it makes you rise. It does not intoxicate you with illusions, it sobers you with truth. And though fewer people can handle this sobering love, it is the only one worth keeping. The greatest challenge is this. Once awakened, you no longer confuse hunger with passion. You no longer mistake longing for love, and that makes you harder to satisfy, not because you've lost the ability to love, but because you refuse to settle for shadows when you've glimpsed the light. The world may call you too much or too difficult, but remember this, the love you now seek is rare because it is real, and when it finally comes, it will not feel like falling. It will feel like coming home. Chapter 3. Why love feels impossible after awakening. The moment awakening touches you, the old world loses its grip. What once felt magical now feels mechanical. What once seemed thrilling now looks like theatre. The charm of romance, the intoxicating chase, the sweet ache of longing, all of it starts to resemble a stage play. You can still sit in the audience, laugh at the jokes, cry at the heartbreak, even applaud at the right moments. But deep inside, you know, this is a performance, not reality. And once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. This is why awakened souls often feel love is impossible. It is not because their hearts have dried up, or because they are incapable of loving. It is because they refuse to confuse illusion with truth. They cannot lie to themselves anymore. They cannot pretend that needing someone equals loving them, that jealousy equals passion, that possession equals devotion. Awakening strips away the disguise, and what remains is so real, so raw, that it makes the old game look like child's play. Think of it this way. When you were a child, toys felt real. The plastic sword made you feel like a warrior. The doll felt alive. The game seemed endless. But as you grew, those toys lost their magic. You didn't stop playing because you hated them. You stopped because you had outgrown them. Awakening does the same thing to love. You've outgrown the illusions. You've outgrown the games. You crave something deeper, something that doesn't dissolve the moment the performance ends. Most people are still enchanted by the script, the thrill of the chase, the dramatic highs and lows, the roller coaster that culture calls romance. But an awakened soul can't go back. You can't unlearn what you've learned. You can't force yourself to get drunk on illusions after tasting truth. And so, while others lose themselves in drama, you stand at the edge, observing, longing not for excitement, but for authenticity. The cost of seeing clearly is that you no longer fit into the old story. This is the paradox. Awakening makes your heart expand with love, but it also makes ordinary relationships collapse under their own weight. Because when you've tasted truth, you cannot survive on lies. When you've breathed freedom, you cannot suffocate in cages. The very depth that makes you capable of real love is the same depth that makes shallow love impossible. You have not lost love. You have found it. But the world around you still confuses sparks for fire, hunger for devotion, illusion for intimacy. Love feels impossible because the stage is so crowded with actors who don't even know they are acting. They recite lines handed down by culture, play roles assigned by fear, and mistake applause for affection. But you, the awakened soul, see through the script. You can't unhear the echoes of truth. You crave a love where masks are dropped, where silence speaks louder than words, where presence matters more than performance. Until then, every false stage feels hollow, no matter how loud the music plays. The impossibility of love after awakening is really the impossibility of pretense. You cannot unsee the trick. You cannot return to sleep once you've opened your eyes. And so love now demands a new definition. It is no longer about losing yourself in someone else. It is about finding yourself in their presence. It is not about possession. It is about freedom. It is not about drama. It is about peace. This kind of love is rare, and that rarity is what makes the journey lonely. So when love feels impossible, do not despair. You are not broken. You are becoming whole. You are not unlovable. You are simply unwilling to settle for illusions anymore. Remember this. The reason awakened souls struggle with love is not because they love less, but because they love more deeply, more truthfully, more courageously than the world is used to. And though it feels lonely now, that very depth will one day call forth a love that is real, a love that does not vanish when the curtain falls. Chapter 4. The solitude of the awakened. Awakening is often sold as liberation, and yes, it does set you free. Free from illusions, free from endless chasing, free from the lies we tell ourselves. But along with freedom comes something most people don't expect. Solitude. Suddenly the crowd you once belonged to begins to fade. Where the world once seemed full of options, partners, and endless distractions, now only a handful remain who truly resonate with your soul. The awakened path is wide in truth but narrow in company. This solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is the ache of missing people, the emptiness of not having company. Solitude is different. It's the clarity of knowing that most people cannot meet you at the depth you now live in. You can be surrounded by friends, family, even lovers, and still feel unseen. Why? Because they may laugh with you, eat with you, talk with you, but they cannot understand the silence inside you. They cannot hear the music you now move to. Alan Watts said, "We are lonely because we think we are separate. But once you awaken, you see, you were never separate at all." This truth hits hard. On one level, awakening dissolves the illusion of separation. You realize you are connected to everything. The trees, the stars, the people you pass on the street. And yet on another level, the human experience of being awake can feel isolating because so few share that perspective. You feel one with existence, yet estranged from society. The solitude of awakening is like standing on a mountain peak. From there, the view is breathtaking. You see clearly, the horizon stretches infinitely, and the air is pure. But few are willing to climb this high. Most stay in the valley, where life is comfortable, familiar, and safe. So when you stand at the peak, you often stand alone. It's not because you chose to abandon others, it's because they chose not to climb. And that difference creates a silence around you. True connection becomes rare. To truly connect with another awakened soul requires that they too have faced their shadows, walked through fire, died to their illusions, and risen again in truth. These people are few, and so awakened souls often wait longer, love slower, and walk quieter. They are not cold but discerning. They are not distant but deeply selective. Because once you've seen the depth of existence, shallow conversations and superficial relationships can no longer satisfy the hunger of your soul. This solitude feels like exile at times. You may sit in a room full of people and feel like you're on another planet. You may watch society obsess over drama, gossip, materialism, and you feel like a stranger in your own home. But here's the paradox. This solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. Life clears the noise around you so you can hear your own soul. The silence is not empty, it is full of guidance, wisdom, and unseen companionship that only solitude can reveal. So if you feel this solitude after awakening, don't mistake it for emptiness. Don't rush back into illusions just to avoid the silence. Stand in it. Embrace it. Because this is the silence that prepares you for real connection. And when another awakened soul does cross your path, the bond will be unlike anything you've ever known, not born of hunger, but of wholeness, not out of need, but out of overflowing truth. Until then, honor your solitude, for it is the proof of your awakening. Chapter 5. Love without chains. Awakened love is not about clinging or holding someone hostage to your fears. It is not about demanding constant validation or expecting another person to complete you. Awakened love is freedom. It is two whole beings standing in their truth, choosing, not needing, to walk together. There are no contracts of the ego here, no bargaining, no subtle deals of, if you give me this, I'll give you that. It is not rooted in dependency, but in presence. It's about being, not owning. Think of how most love stories are written. They are tales of rescue. You saved me, you healed me, you made me whole. But awakened love does not arrive as a savior, it arrives as a mirror. You don't meet someone to rescue you from yourself. You meet someone who reflects the truth you already carry. This is why awakened love feels so different. It is not about escape. It is about recognition. Not about filling holes, but about sharing abundance. Two complete beings, overflowing into each other. Awakened love strips away the theater. No more acting, no more wearing masks to appear desirable. No more performing roles to be accepted. You don't have to hide your flaws or play the endless game of pretending. In awakened love, truth is the language. Vulnerability is strength, and honesty is the bond. You show up as you are, raw, real, unpolished, and you are seen. This kind of love feels rare because it refuses to hide behind illusions. It demands truth, and in that truth, freedom is found. Alan Watts once said, "When you realize that you live in and with the universe, not against it, you stop trying to control it." Awakened love carries this same spirit. It does not try to control, manipulate, or possess. It allows space. It gives breath. It does not choke the soul. It expands it. In ordinary love, jealousy and fear dominate. In awakened love, trust and freedom flourish. You don't love to keep someone chained to you. You love to watch them grow wings and fly, even if that means they sometimes fly far from you. This kind of love cannot be rushed, cannot be demanded, cannot be bought. It emerges when two people who have walked their own inner journeys meet at a crossroads. Each has faced their shadows, healed their wounds, and discovered their wholeness. They do not come to devour each other. They come to walk together. Awakened love is a choice, renewed every day, not a desperate clinging. It is a sacred yes given freely, not an anxious, "Don't leave me," whispered in fear. That is why it feels like liberation. Most relationships in the old world revolve around fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. But awakened love is not born from fear. It is born from fullness. When you are whole in yourself, you no longer need someone to silence your loneliness. You no longer demand that they fill your emptiness. Instead, you share your completeness with them. And when two complete beings unite, the love doesn't shrink you. It expands you. It becomes a force that lifts both higher. Awakened love is not about chains, but about doors. In ordinary love, doors are locked. Don't leave, stay mine, be what I need you to be. In awakened love, the doors are open. Come and go as you are. Stay because you want to, not because you have to. This freedom transforms everything. The bond is not weaker without chains. It is stronger. Because when someone stays with you, even though they are free to walk away, their love is real. And that realness is unshakable. So understand this. Awakened love is not about possession, it is about presence. It is not about consuming each other, but expanding together. It does not suffocate, it liberates. It is love without theater, love without masks, love without fear. And yes, it may be rare, but when it comes, it changes everything. Because this is the love that does not break under pressure, does not fade with distance, and does not end with time. It is the kind of love that doesn't bind you. It frees you. Chapter 6. Rising in Love. The awakened don't fall in love. Falling means slipping into illusion, drowning in desire, losing yourself in fantasy. Falling is chaos. It is hunger dressed up as romance, need disguised as passion. But awakening shows you another way. Instead of falling, you rise. You rise into clarity, into freedom, into truth. You don't collapse into someone's arms to escape yourself. You stand tall, whole in yourself, and meet another whole being. And together you rise, not downward into need, but upward into expansion. Think about how society glorifies the idea of falling in love. The word itself suggests accident, weakness, even injury. People say, "I fell for them," as if love were a trap you stumbled into. But awakened souls know love is not an accident. It is a conscious meeting. Rising in love is not about losing balance, but about gaining strength. It's not about tripping into someone else's story, but about writing a new one together, with awareness and freedom. Love becomes a choice, not a fall. To rise in love means you no longer seek completion outside of yourself. You have already discovered your wholeness. You don't enter a relationship hoping someone will fix you, save you, or rescue you from your loneliness. Instead, you bring your fullness to the table. Two complete beings stand side by side, choosing one another, not out of need, but out of abundance. That's why awakened love feels lighter. It doesn't weigh you down with fear and chains. It lifts you up with presence and trust. Alan Watts often said that real love is not about clinging, but about freedom. Rising in love reflects this truth. There are no contracts written in fear, no silent bargains of dependency. Instead, there is space. Space to grow, space to change, space to breathe. Rising love does not suffocate you. It inspires you. It is not a cage. It is a sky. When you rise in love, you don't shrink to fit someone else's need. You expand together, each lifting the other closer to their true potential. And yes, this kind of love is rare. That's why most people never experience it. True awakened love is like a diamond, precious precisely because it is forged under immense pressure and is difficult to find. To reach it, you must first endure the fire of awakening, the solitude of clarity, the courage of walking alone. That journey is what prepares you to meet someone at the same height. When you finally rise together, it feels eternal, because it is rooted not in illusion, but in truth. Rising in love changes the energy of a relationship. Instead of draining each other with demands, you energize each other with encouragement. Instead of dragging each other down with insecurities, you lift each other higher with trust. Instead of competing, you collaborate. Rising love is not about who wins or who loses. It's about both rising together, side by side. That's why it lasts. Not because of fear, not because of contracts, but because both choose each other freely, every single day. Ordinary love often dies when illusions fade. But rising love grows stronger as truth deepens. The more real you are with each other, the more the bond solidifies. Rising love thrives on authenticity, not performance. It feeds on presence, not absence. It expands with time instead of shrinking under it. This is why awakened love endures. It doesn't depend on sparks that fade, but on wholeness that grows. It is not a roller coaster of highs and lows. It is a steady flame that never burns out. So remember this: don't fall, rise. Don't lose yourself in hunger and call it passion. Don't chase illusions and call it love. Choose to rise. Choose to meet someone as whole as you are and to walk together in freedom, clarity, and truth. It may take longer to find. It may feel lonely along the way, but when it comes, it will last. Because rising in love is not about fear, not about need. It is about two awakened souls expanding into the infinite sky together. Chapter 7. The Price of Clarity. Awakening is both a gift and an exile. On one hand, it liberates you from illusions, from the endless cycles of drama, from the hunger disguised as love. On the other hand, it exiles you from the world you once called home. You no longer kneel before false gods of attention, approval, and obsession, but in leaving them behind, you also step out of the crowd. And that solitude carries a price. For clarity shows you truth, and once seen, truth cannot be unseen. There are moments you wish you could go back. Back to the intoxication of falling, back to the sweet madness of desire, back to the thrill of illusions. You remember how alive it felt, how consuming it was to be swept away by fantasy. But deep down, you know. You cannot return. You know too much now. You've seen the machinery behind the magic, the strings behind the puppet show. To go back would mean betraying your own soul. And peace has become too precious to trade for drama. Clarity feels heavy at times. It strips away the sugarcoating and forces you to face reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. And yet, in this weight lies freedom. Because illusions are not light, they are chains. What felt sweet once was also poison. Awakening does not make life easier, but it makes life real. And in that realness lies a beauty that no fantasy can replicate. It may not intoxicate you like before, but it nourishes you in ways that last. Alan Watts often reminded us that peace is not the consolation prize. It is not what you settle for when the excitement is gone. It is the treasure itself. The old world told you that passion was the peak, that chaos was love, that turbulence was intensity. But awakening reveals that those storms only exhausted you. True treasure was the calm ocean waiting beneath. The price of clarity is letting go of storms you once romanticized, so you can finally rest in the ocean of peace. This price is why so many resist awakening. They cling to the drama because it feels alive even when it drains them. They fear that peace means boredom, but peace is not emptiness. Peace is fullness without noise. Peace is the rare state where nothing is missing, where you're not pulled forward by desire or backward by regret. It may lack fireworks, but it carries a glow that never fades. To choose this peace requires courage, for it means leaving behind the crowd's applause. And yet, once you have tasted peace, you cannot go back. You can try to return to old patterns, but they will feel hollow. You can attempt to drown in illusions again, but the water will no longer intoxicate you. The price of clarity is that illusions lose their power. And while this feels like loss at first, it is actually liberation, for the truth you carry now cannot be taken away, no matter who leaves, no matter what changes. That truth becomes your anchor. Awakening separates you from half-loves, relationships rooted in need, built on masks, dependent on drama. And yes, that separation feels lonely, but it is also protection. For half-love was never love. It was a bargain of wounds. Clarity prevents you from settling again. It keeps you from selling your soul just to feel desired. That is the exile of awakening. You no longer fit where you once belonged. But it is also the gift. You now belong to truth, and truth belongs to you. So remember this. Peace is not what you get after love fails. Peace is not the prize you settle for when passion fades. Peace is the treasure itself. The world may call you detached, difficult, or lonely. Let them. For you know something they don't. That clarity, though it costs you illusions, rewards you with freedom. And freedom is worth the price. You would not trade it for madness again, because once you rise into peace, you realize this is not the absence of love. This is love's highest form. Conclusion: the awakened choice. So why is it that awakened souls cannot find love easily? It is not because they are broken. It is not because they are unworthy. It is because they now see too clearly to be deceived. They no longer mistake hunger for love, because hunger is rooted in lack, and love is born from wholeness. They no longer confuse drama with passion, because passion without peace is just chaos wearing perfume. They no longer beg to be completed, because awakening has shown them the greatest secret. They were always whole to begin with. And here lies the paradox. When love finally arrives to an awakened soul, it does not arrive like a storm that sweeps them away. It arrives like sunrise, quiet, steady, unstoppable. It does not imprison them. It liberates them. It does not demand masks. It celebrates truth. It is not about falling and losing yourself, but rising and becoming more of who you truly are. It is not about possession, but about presence. Two beings standing free, yet choosing each other every single day. This is the awakened choice. To love without chains, to connect without illusions, to embrace another not out of desperation, but out of recognition. And yes, it may be rare. It may take longer. It may mean walking in solitude for seasons of your life. But when it comes, it lasts, because love born in wholeness is unshakable. It survives distance. It transcends time. It deepens with truth. It is not fragile, because it does not depend on illusion. It is the only kind of love worth waiting for. So if you are listening to this right now and wondering why love feels hard after awakening, remember, it is not because you are unlovable. It is because your soul has raised the standard. You are no longer willing to settle for half-love, for shallow illusions, for temporary highs that collapse by morning. You are waiting for the kind of love that does not fade when the music stops, the kind of love that expands you, frees you, and makes you rise. And that love, though rare, is real. And it will find you when the time is right. Comment below. I don't fall in love, I rise in love. If these words touched your soul, type awakened in the comments. Share this video with someone still trapped in illusions of love. Help them see the truth. And don't forget to subscribe, because here together we rise beyond illusions and step into freedom.